So she filed the case of Femi Falana and another, I think Leke Sanusi, and Babangida. A very terrible case. The then acting chief judge, the late Judge Legally put the case before himself. And in his ruling, he abused the hell out of us. He described me as a busybody, a medicine metalopa. And blamed my lawyer for not discouraging me from filing a frivolous suit against, in his own word, President Ibrahim Babangida, who has since become the Kabiyesi of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Another public interest case filed by Chief Falana thereafter was assigned to himself by Judicial. On that occasion, Chief Falana filed an application that the judge should recuse himself, since he believed that Babangida was beyond reproach for having the temerity to make that application. Justice Legally accused Chief Falana of contempt, convicted him, and sentenced him to 12 months imprisonment, even though the maximum punishment was 3 months for contempt of court. Now, this story is very important so that we can know where we are coming from. But Judicial belong to a different class of judges. Majority of the judges at the material time knew their law, had the courage to challenge dictatorial tendencies of the military regime. One of them, in the Federal Court here, Justice Odunawo, when the premises of Punch newspapers were closed down, Justice Odunawo said, except under a state of emergency, you do not violate the human rights of the people without a challenge. That was under a military regime. And he ordered the military to vacate the premises. In the case of National Concord, no, that one was handled by Chief Falana. In the case of National Concord, National Concord was closed down, among others, for insisting on recognition of the June 12th election results. I handled the case. The regime was careless in issuing the proscription order. And so we went to court. In the decree, the regime said the premises of National Concord newspapers are hereby sealed up instead of sealed off. You may check the dictionary. So I took a bottle of wine to the court. And I said, my Lord, I think it was just a here. My Lord, this decree says that the premises of the Concord have been sealed up. Only a bottle of wine can be sealed up. A building cannot be sealed up. So the intention of the principal law is to seal off and not to seal up. On that basis, the judge ordered the reopening of the National Concord premises. Now, at the highest level, at the apex court, this is very important, so that we can know when the rain began to beat us. The Supreme Court then was one of the best in the world. In the days of Kayode Esho, Otutu Obaseki, Aniabolu, and the rest of them, the military dictator had seized, just 3 cases, had seized the house of Ojuku's father on Queen Drive, number 29. Ojuku went to court. While the case was pending, the military ejected him forcefully. The Supreme Court, a short spoke for the court and said, in any country where the rule of law is allowed, rule of force by self-help is abandoned. Therefore, before we can hear this case, you must go and restore Ojuku and his family to that house. How dare you in those days not to comply with the judgment of the Supreme Court? The court was respected. The judgment was complied with. Another one, the Necom house on Marina was gutted by fire. Garba, the head of the fire brigade service, federal, and his boys were able to quench the fire. The military didn't believe they did enough, so they were charged with murder. Because 2 people died in the fire incident, but they saved over 600 other people. He ran to Chifa and they filed an action in court. The murder charge was quashed. He was then interdicted. He went to court. No, while the case was in court, he was interdicted. While the case was in court, he was dismissed. The judge who was handling the case couldn't stomach what happened. He resigned from the bench. Buhari was the head of state. For such embarrassment to the judiciary, the judge resigned. I think, Richard, you have written a book in honor of that judge. When the case goes to the Supreme Court, again, Justice Esho spoke for the court, the Supreme Court. And Justice Esho said, the military coming to power is always faced with a dilemma. Either to allow the rule of law or rule of martial force. Once the rule of law is allowed to operate, all authorities, including the military, must go to the rule of law. By sacking this man while his case was pending in court, the military has committed contempt of court. To purge yourself of the contempt, thou shalt reinstate the man. The dismissal was annulled, and the man was reinstated. The last one that will interest you, the late Professor Iyayi, Professor Iyayi, Professor Sage, Ise Sage, and others were removed by the University of Benin. As the government, we had gone to court, the late Akabashon had led me in court. As the government could not justify, the government was going to lose the case. So they ran to Babangida, we are in trouble. Yet, we must send away all these radical and Marxist lecturers. I think about 10 of them. Babangida said, what do we do? People will just set up a visitation panel. So let's use that report. So they used the report of the visitation panel to dismiss or justify the removal of those lecturers. When the case got to the Supreme Court, my boss, the late Akamba, said, no, we've won at the High Court and Court of Appeal. Go and join them there. The late Dr. Mudiagaoye was the lawyer to the government. And so he brought a decree. Once anybody has been sacked in the public interest, Decree 17 of 1984. Nobody can look at it. And the judges, Oputa was on the panel, Calibre White and others. They asked him, Dr. Mudiagaoji, the young man is saying that you are using a report of a visitation panel. Babangida as head of state will have sacked anybody under Decree 17. But once he acted as a visitor, he does not have visitorial powers to sack a lecturer in any university. And when Dr. Oye was insisting, one of them said, Dr. Oye, you and I attended the University of London. Will you have imagined the Queen as our visitor coming to sack a lecturer in the University of London? And the old man said, no, sir. He said, is that all? He said, my lord, that is all the way from Warri. Now, of course, the Supreme Court held in favor of the lecturers. That was the court then. Not a KPSC court. A court of justice. Now, these stories are important for those of us who still go to the court. Now, just to let you know, while I'm telling this story, a few things are happening in our country right now. The most serious is emergency rule. I was in Senegal for a meeting 2 weeks ago, meeting of the Media Foundation for West Africa. So while I was in the meeting, somebody rushed in and said, there has been a coup in Nigeria. So I rushed out. They speak French, you know. He didn't quite hear the news. So I went out to find out. I then rushed back. No, it wasn't a coup. Emergency rule has been posed in one state, and they appointed an administrator. The president appointed, and they said, is the president unelected? I said elected. What of the governor? I said the governor is elected. How can you remove him? And then replace him with a retired soldier. Mr. Falana, what kind of democracy is that? I was utterly embarrassed. Right? And I think Audiobe has made a point, Chief Audiobe, that by appointing a former military dictator to go ahead and stage, the government may be tempting soldiers to disrupt the entire exercise. Now, for lawyers, please, when you hear any lawyer defending emergency, I beg you, ask one question. What section of the Constitution, what section allows removal of the governor and deputy and then suspension of legislation? Please ask. Because this regime last year went to court to challenge the removal of governor of local government chairmen and councillors by governors. And the Supreme Court was total by saying no governor has the power in Nigeria to remove elected chairmen and councillors. And this regime was celebrating the judgment. Even though the Supreme Court even went off the track by amending the Constitution to please the executive. They rewrote Section 162 of the Constitution, which stipulates that every month the statutory allocation of states, of local government, shall be paid into a state local government joint account. Supreme Court said no, that shall pay it directly. That judgment was delivered in July last year. As if they complied with? No. And they won't comply, if you must know. Now the point I'm making, Sunday, when you have a KPSC in power, that the judgments of court, particularly the Supreme Court, are treated with ignominy. Another case that will interest you currently, the NURTW had an election in August last year. Barua was re-elected. His opponents, led by Oluomo, went to court, National Industrial Court. They lost. They went to the Court of Appeal. They lost. The Court of Appeal is the last court. It is the Supreme Court of Labour Matter. As I'm talking to you, as we are gathered here, Oluomo, not elected by either the members or the court. You know, court also elect people in Nigeria. Is the one in the secretariat of that union today. Why Barawa is kept outside the secretariat today? To take over that secretariat, they invaded the place theater and killed one Nigerian. Barawa was charged with killing the person in order to get him out of the office. So he and his officers were detained as murder suspects. So by the time they came out, the secretariat had been taken over and given to somebody who never won election or won any case in court. The point I'm making, the regime chooses and picks whichever judgments it likes to comply with and obey. Now, I recently intervened with respect to the case of Natasha by saying that not less than 10 cases decided by Nigerian courts have heard that suspension of a legislator in Nigeria is illegal. Because once you do so, when you do so, you have denied the constituency representation in the parliament. That is the law. Mr. or Senator Godswill Akpabio was in the Senate under Dr. Bukola Saraki when in 2017 Senator Ali Ndume was suspended. He went to court and won the case. Godswill Akpabio was also in the Senate when in 2018 Senator Ovie Omo-Agege was suspended. He went to court and won his case. In any country where the rule of law operates, once there is a precedent, you comply. I understand a senior lawyer, the Senate President, when he was told, if this lady goes to court, she will win. He said, that will take time now. Let her go to court. You know that is the language in Nigeria. You know you are wrong. You say, let him go to court, let her go to court. You are not going to use your own money. You are going to use the money of the state. It is a height of impunity for a senior lawyer to ignore the judgments of the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court on any given matter. That is what is going on in Abuja. Yesterday, the governor of Kogi State, no, I won't go that far. They say I should call him Olodo. I call him Ododo as a lawyer. He issued an order, illegal order, that I hereby ban all rallies and meetings. And I also ban convoys of vehicles, believing that Natasha was going to come in a convoy. And the people of Kogi did all of us proud yesterday by showing, and this is the point, a people organized can never be defeated. They gathered in a mammoth crowd, a crowd that the governor could not mobilize in that state. In spite of the threat to arrest anybody who defies the order of the governor, people drew down. And when they were monitoring the roads, this lady came through the sky. You know, they couldn't ban movement of planes and helicopters. So, totally shocked and rattled, totally shocked and embarrassed. The government assigned the security forces, please arrest and question this lady for defying the order of the government. I say here I will provide the word. There's no law in Nigeria that was breached by her yesterday. As a matter of fact, under section 39 and 40 of the Constitution, which guarantee freedom of expression and freedom of association, assembly, she was only enjoying her fundamental rights by going peacefully to her community and meeting with members of her constituents. And with what we saw yesterday, you know, the so-called recall exercise, where they claim they had mobilized 250,000 people in 2 or 3 days. You know, it's a charity. The people came out on their own. Yes, not being paid. Or did you see anybody distributing money? You could see them dancing. It was a festive mood. But you know what that lady did yesterday? Is to tell the people in Abuja, we all collectively own this country. And all of us must also take that home. Last week, about the same time, one minister in Abuja, I think the FCT minister, Mr. Wiki, asked the body of benchers to go and grab a lawyer. You know, if you want to discipline a lawyer, you will write a petition. He said, don't wait for petition. Just call him, you wrote this, and discipline him. So for them, rule of law, due process, nonsensical. Now it is self-help. You know, currently, and all of us here must please help our people. The Lagos state government is currently demolishing shanties occupied by the poor. But when the big people, including those in Banana Island, they call it Banana Republic, when they build without approval, the government will say they are ratifying it. But when it comes to the poor, you demolish. So one of the things we must take out of here is to defend our people. The Jakonde regime built 30,000 housing units for the poor. Lagos, middle level people. 1981, 82, over 40 years ago. One of those buildings has collapsed. Now you will now use the money of the people to build houses for the rich. And ignore and then go and demolish. You go and demolish the houses of the poor. That must stop. What idea I want to take home here? I'm talking about rule of law. What I title my paper is rule of rulers, not rule of law. Rule of law means all of us are bound by the law. We are treated equally by the law. We must comply with the law, including the government. But that's not like the case in Nigeria. What you now have is rule of ruler, rule of cabinet. Whatever they say, nobody must challenge it. Again, I think I want to thank Femi here. But 3 weeks ago, a youth corps member expressed her views about the president, about the ongoings in the country. They summoned her. They were going to deal with her. Obviously, they would have extended her service. Led members of his party to the NYC headquarters. They ran away. Because the guilty are always afraid. Just last week, a student in Asaba, School of Nursing, was alleged to have sent out, in this age of science and technology, a video recording of the wife of the president, where everybody knows his father now, everybody knows his mother. So why was I calling my mother? But that was an offense. She was already queried, but because of the anger of the youths and Nigerians in the social media, it was the governor of the state who ordered the commissioner of health go and stop that Bawukun exercise there. And that was how that girl was free. The point I'm as injustice to all of us. When we are gathered on this occasion, as I did say, when we are to bury our comrade and friend, Yinka Odumake, as I'm here, we are not here to celebrate his wealth. No. We are not here to find how many houses he built. We are here to celebrate his consistency, his integrity, and his principles. And it's a challenge to all of us. It's not a question of, Yinka Tilo, yes, we can gather and be money forever. No! What we should do is to decide collectively here today that those things that Yinka stood for, we are going to continue to demand from the government and from the enemies of our people how to reorganize our country. For those of us in Lagos, and we must start this year. They claim that Lagos is the 5th largest economy in Africa. Now, we must start with the appropriation of Lagos State budget. You understand me? All those your local governments and SCDs are picking up. SCDA, we must please, when you live here, please go and find out. Can we have a copy of your budget? Let us begin to demand accountability. Whatever they put in the budget, we must ensure that they implement. And those in Abuja, your senators and House of Rep members, in 2024, averagely, if each senator took away 500 million, this apart from their salary, they call it constituency project. That means projects for you. I just told a senior advocate yesterday in the Ikeja here, Orewa, when are we going to ask our senator to account? We are going to do a letter, and each of us must also be ready to do that. There are 24 legislators in the House of Reps from Lagos, 40 people in Alausaga. We must start to ask questions. When we learn that our governor has traveled somewhere to attend a party, we must ask questions. You know what I mean? So, and this is what Yinka would have done today. Would Yinka have been keeping quiet? No. Yinka will have been joining issues with the people in Abuja. And that is why we must continue to celebrate Yinka, not once a year, every day. And the only way we can do that is to identify with the masses of our people, to shake off the heavy load that these people have imposed on our people. Please, for those of you in the social media, I beg you, increase, intensify by joining issues with them. They are juggling figures now that things are getting better. Are you not aware? The juggle figure. This is a change rate. They now say oil is coming down to 750. How do you take it? Where do you take it from? They say the dollar, the naira dollar is improving. How? How much was it when you came to power? Our people say, "Oh, Shabo Olegbe." So, if you cannot improve my life, please leave me where you met me. And therefore, thank our sister again. Joe, please, you must also make this affair. But this affair must not be once a year. You must have a foundation who can work out the details for Yinka Odumake. And that foundation must have programs. What Yinka stood for. Happily, I hope Mr. Gbaje is still around. I mean, are you a chief? Mr. Gbaje, please. Our friend Olumide was being polite. Yinka and Odumake, Olumide and others, we had regular debates, even on the way Afenifere is conducting his affairs. What the Afenifere was noted for, power more, Baba, is the welfare package. which later became 4 cardinal programs. Education for everybody, all our children. Access to medical health, Medicare, full employment, the last one, integrated development. Nobody in Femi Falana talks about free education for everybody again. So for these organizations to remain relevant, you must go back to the philosophy of our. Today, 20 million of our children are on the street. Are you aware? 20 million. The children of Chinese, even Rwandans, want to know computer in primary school. But our own children are on the street. And we want to make progress. And I think it was one of the leaders that made the point. If we abandon the children of the poor, they become a danger for our own children in the future. Okay, the last one I must correct here. There are a group of reactionaries circulating the Ojota video of 2012. I'm sure many of you will have seen it. And they are now asking, very stupidly, where are these people now? So do you want Yeka to come and be demonstrating from his grave? Or Braithwaite from his grave? Now there's no country in the world where you expect a nonagenarian or octogenarian or even septuagenarian to come and lead you. But the danger, the fraud in that photo is that they are the most successful protests in Nigeria after 2012. And for those who want to show that they love Jonathan more than everybody, ask them, where were they in 2010? When the Yaradua Kaba said Jonathan will not become president, Yinka and some of us state protests in Lagos and Abuja at the risk of our lives. After that, the most successful rally ever held in Nigeria since colonial days is the EndSARS protest of 2020. Are you aware? In Lagos, over 1 million people were on the street. And you have protests in New York, London, South Africa, and the rest of them. To the extent that the UN Secretary General had to speak out in favor of the young people in Nigeria. After that, you have had the hardship protest. You have had end bad governance protest. They don't refer to those words, but they want to go to 2012 to insult people